Time now for Media Watch with James Creedon. Hi, James. We're going to start off with a new face at the Elysée Palace here in France.
That's right. Bruno Roger-Petit is the new spokesman at the Elysée Palace. This is a sort of a new role, if you like. There was always obviously a communication service at the Elysée, but this is inspired a bit more maybe by the American system. Macron signs up journalist as spokesman amid PR shakeup. This is Politico.eu, and what they're saying is that this is part of a rejigging of his media strategy. No longer concerned with preserving his mystique, Macron will speak out more frequently to explain his reform agenda and fight back against plummeting approval ratings. We saw that his approval ratings have fallen in a dramatic and historic fashion, and also that this idea of not giving too many interviews to journalists, remaining behind closed doors, having this somewhat aloof monarchic kind of approach is perhaps not working. And in fact, it was Bruno Roger-Petit, the new PR guy, who wrote in July why Macron must absolutely abandon Jupiter, which from kind of Greek mythology is, or I think it's even Roman mythology, the idea of an aloof, centralised figure that is kind of mysterious and all of the rest of it. In any case, apparently it's not working out very well. Marianne, this is an interesting piece. This was written a few days ago before the announcement of Bruno Roger-Petit, when Emmanuel Macron was trying to recruit double agents amongst journalists. Now, the headline is a little bit poetic, but what they're basically saying there is that he spends a lot of time asking journalists their opinion of what they think of this or what they think of that, and even attempting to hire them. So clearly this is a trend, but what is somewhat ironic is that during his campaign, Emmanuel Macron somewhat famously said, when you preside, as one does as a president, you are not the friend of journalists. So it appears that in some respects he does seek out the opinion of journalists, and indeed Laurent Saïm, who is a former Washington correspondent at the Télé network, he hired her during his presidential campaign as well. So this is somewhat of a trend for Emmanuel Macron.
It's almost like all the French are back from the beach and suddenly talking again.
They are indeed.
Meanwhile, Emmanuel Macron's personality under the spotlight, as is Bruno Roger-Petit's.
That's right. People are kind of, I suppose people in the French media sort of networks know him quite well. He's an opinionator, he's an editorialist, but he has quite a colourful personality. As this scene, when he was presenting the news some years back, shows the bulletin ends and he takes his stack of paper, and instead of being a dignified human being, he decides to throw them away. So he is a colourful character. How that will play out in the Elysée is we'll have to wait and see. People have been trawling through his writings as well. For example, an editorial piece in the business magazine Challenge was denounced and criticised by many of the journalists working there. A lot of the editorial line was said to be too pro-Macron. In other words, did he have a friend in the press, and was he writing opinion pieces that were overly positive? Others have called him a bootlicker, which is very much a French expression for somebody who is licking boots, but others have dug out articles where he is quite critical of Emmanuel Macron for his sort of trying to straddle the left and the right, also critical of that Jupiterian approach to PR, as we were talking about earlier. And apparently there is one joke that is being trotted out again and again and again, and that is this one. Well, the role hasn't changed. Now it's just been officialised, or, nothing has changed. Now he's just being paid. In other words, he was always already acting as the spokesman.
And his Twitter account is gone, meanwhile.
He tweeted a lot. He was one of the more active Twitter users. Now, this is the communique from the Elysée saying that actually one of his roles is going to be to manage the Elysée Twitter account. So what happened? Well, a lot of his old tweets started disappearing. Somebody, this Thomas Von Puy, was clearly taking a very close look and noticed that 37,000 tweets were disappearing one after the other before, in fact, the account itself just got deleted. Probably a little bit easier. So he has decided to, instead of keeping both accounts active, just to delete one and spend all his time focusing on the official Elysée account.
And as you expect, plenty of jokes about what you were talking about a little earlier, namely Emmanuel Macron's alleged aloofness over the summer. Some people saying the only way to get close to the president now is to get a job.
That's it. This is Charlene Van Uneker, who is a columnist and a radio journalist and comic. She said, look, basically you know, you just have to get hired by the Elysée if you want to get access to Emmanuel Macron. This, as we were saying, basically when Emmanuel Macron came in, he stopped giving interviews. The press corps was really pushed back in terms of the access they had, and it's been quite criticised. So that was a somewhat obvious joke that some people would come out with. Just very quickly to point out that at the same time that all of this is happening, you have a lot of former politicians who are now going to work for the media. This is Roselyne Bachelot, who is a health minister some years back, and she's actually giving advice in this little video here. We don't really need the audio, but to Raffarin, former Prime Minister, Guénaud, former Interior Minister, Filippetti, former Culture Minister, who are all going into the media to get jobs. Now, one thing that she says in this piece is there is no going back. If you cross this particular Rubicon, where is it? She made that statement somewhere. If you cross this Rubicon, that's it. There is no going back. But I'm not sure if it necessarily works the other way around.
We thought we'd seen the end of some of those crowds today. James Green, thank you very much.
Thanks,
that was Media Watch. We're going to take a quick break now here on Life in Paris.